I think our first 11 years in business, we did a 30-day trial for $89. We've built up such an amazing community over the years that when we got shut down, 66% of our clients told us, keep billing me. Everyone has those struggles where it's like they want to give up. And I want this to be like one little thing that I can do to maybe help keep them from giving up and quitting.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Hold on.
Maybe.
Hello and welcome to Gym World Worldwide. Dear listeners, I am your host, Mateo Lopez, running solo today, giving John a little break. And I'm here to talk to you today and interview my other buddy, John Farkas, multi-location gym owner, and just a little teaser of what my hopes and dreams are for the interview today. John's the owner of Blue Ocean Fitness, as well as several Alloy franchises. And we're going to talk about why make the jump from running your own brand to someone else's and what that experience was like. John's also an experienced marketer. So we're going to learn about his approach to making content and his ad strategy. And lastly, I'm hoping that you and I, dear listener, will learn about John's approach to staffing, especially with all these different locations, with different brands, and how all that works. So, John, how you doing?
Excellent. I'm excited to dive in and have a great discussion.
Sweet. Well, I think to start off, give us a brief background on your fitness career. Tell us how you got into the biz and started your first gym.
As brief as I can make it, I started around the age of 20 as a personal trainer. Opened my first gym in 2011, Blue Ocean Fitness in Chesterfield, Missouri, just outside of St. Louis. And we expanded in 2013. We expanded again in 2019. And then, we had kind of the world shut down for a couple of years. And then after that, we decided, hey, it's time to tackle a new challenge and try to help more people and continue growing. And that was when we made the decision to partner with Alloy Personal Training. And we've now have 3 of those open with more in the funnel.
Oh, with more on the way. I didn't know that.
That's right.
Okay, great.
That's right.
Okay, more on the way. So tell us a little bit about the first spot. You said you've expanded a couple times. Was it always small group personal training or did it evolve into that? What was the concept to start?
Yeah, we lucked out where I stumbled across a couple people. It was actually Alan and Rachel Cosgrove and Rick Mayo, 2 people that were doing semi-private personal training. And so that was how I first heard about it. To my knowledge, we were the first place in St. Louis that did it. So I heard what they were doing. I got to know them a little bit. And I was just like, man, this seems really cool. Because again, not that long ago, small group personal training, semi-private training wasn't a thing. You had your boot camps and you had your one-on-one personal training. But I fell in love instantly with the idea of small group or semi-private personal training. And to me, it made so much sense. I was just like, man, this is, you can have people working out and having fun and together, but small enough that you can still give everyone plenty of attention and really get to know them as an individual. And so we were really fortunate. We started that way from day one. We never had to make any awkward transitions like I know a lot of my friends and other peers in the industry have had to do.
Sweet. So is it everyone's on their own plan or it's the same kind of plan, but just a much smaller group?
Everyone's on their own plan. At Blue Ocean Fitness, that was how we kind of developed it from day one. And it's like anything else; it definitely evolves over time. And we've gotten a lot smarter and more efficient with our systems. But it's always kind of been, what's in this person's best interest, and we're going to vary it, as needed.
And what year was the first one? Was Blue Ocean, did it start?
2011.
2011. Okay, so CrossFit's like basically a couple years away from its peak. Boot camp was a thing. Did you have trouble explaining what it was?
No one thinks of this now, but yes, that was a huge pain point at the time when we said, we do semi-private personal training. People just didn't understand. They were like, well, I've only worked with a trainer one-on-one. Can you do that? because that's all, that's all I want to work with a personal trainer. And there it was early on those first couple of years, it was actually a major hurdle and a challenge that we had to overcome, was really just educating people. Again, it's hard to think about that now, or if someone's the newer trainers in the industry, but it's like this wasn't always a thing. And so there was a ton of education or in those early years, just that, letting people know, like, nope, we're still going to take care of you. We're going to work around that shoulder injury. Like, you're going to be okay. But it, like I said, it wasn't a thing.
What was that process like? Like, is it just like you're putting out content? Is it all happening in the sales interview, in the sit down, in the pitch? How did you get over that hurdle?
There was a lot of trial and error. We did put out a lot of content, but again, back at that time, like, there were no Facebook ads, wasn't a thing yet. Like, you couldn't advertise it online.
Right.
So we did
Right.
do a lot of content organically on social media, but you couldn't really promote it. It was just, you hoped your clients shared it and talked about it and saw their friends. And so back then, like I said, their content would only get you so far back at that time. You couldn't, like I said, you just couldn't get it to the masses. So it was a lot in the sales consultation when we'd sit down with someone, and then also a lot of just like, just saying like, hey, come try it out. Just, try it once and let me know what you think. And then it was up to myself and the other coaches to provide a great experience, to get people to buy in. And usually once people tried it out, we did, I laugh now, but for, I think our first 11 years in business, we did a 30-day trial for $89. Like, and it was, again, and today people varying offers all the time. Is like, no, we did this for 11 years, 30 days for $89. And so and that's what we would tell people, just try it out, see what you think, try it for a month. And it, like I said, thankfully it worked more times than it didn't.
I mean, that does make sense. Like, it's enough time to get someone bought in, get them indoctrinated, and get them to realize, oh yeah, this makes sense. It's still personal training. It's just there's some people here, and that's fun too. So that makes sense. And what's the vibe like? What's the town that you're in? What's the niche? I'm seeing on the website, lose weight, get stronger, feel better. Who are you guys going after?
40 and over, definitely. We're in the suburbs of St. Louis. It's a pretty affluent area, but we're definitely catering to that. Like 40 to 65 is kind of our sweet spot. And over time, I would say we've really doubled down on that. In the beginning, you're desperate. You'll take anyone that's, not understanding marketing. It's like, I'll take any, do you have a heartbeat? Cool. Come on in.
Right.
You're my, that's who my client was, anyone with a heartbeat. But we definitely skewed a little bit on the older side as far as demographic goes. We've never really worked with kids or athletes. That's just not our thing. And we've really, over time, kind of just doubled down on that and gotten more specific as far as this is who we want to work with. And it is just looking at like, who can we best serve? And that's like I said, that's what we've done, and it's evolved a little bit, but for the most part, that's the way it's always been.
So you said you expanded twice. So was it just continuous steady growth from day one? No setbacks whatsoever? You're just growing and growing and growing, expanded twice, and then boom to Alloy? Or what was the journey like? And I guess, when did you outgrow your spaces?
Our first space was 1,000 square feet. So it was snug.
Tiny.
To say.
Yeah.
It was very snug. I still remember I didn't have any money, so I put everything. Thankfully, I had a decent credit score, and when it came time to open, I just, like anyone else, I'm getting a lot of credit card offers, and I just activated them all on the same day. I activated 4 credit cards, turned around and maxed them out, and that was how I got my upfront funding.
That's how you paid for the flooring and the equipment?
Oh no, there was no flooring. So we moved into an old nail salon, and the carpet had nail polish stains on it. And again, I didn't really have any money. My dad helped me build a TRX like stand, and it was my dad's was a big hunter, and he modeled it after like a deer hanging stand. And again, it was just we had homemade equipment. I bought some dumbbells and kettlebells, and I had one adjustable bench. and some resistance band. I mean, we didn't have hardly anything at all. And I still remember at one of our anniversary parties talking to a client, and he told me that he's like, John, one of my friends was asking me, what this gym, because I'm always talking about the gym, and he was asking me about it, and he's like, I told him, the carpet kind of reminds me of a crime scene. Like that's how, like, just with the stains and everything. And I mean, it was disgusting, but it was, we painted the walls and left the carpet down. And that was, I mean, it was, the first location was not anything that you'd want to brag about.
Wow. I mean, we're kind of bragging about it now because it's really impressive. I'm impressed you were able to sell some semi-private personal training memberships in a space like that. How did you get the lease if you had no money?
I think it was someone that just, at the time, I'm not really sure. In hindsight now, that's an excellent question. I've never really asked that landlord, like, why would you ever,
Yeah.
to a guy that has no business experience,
Yes.
minimal money. And, I didn't have, like I said, no business experience, not a lot of money saved up. Nope, I didn't have any business plan. I again, I have no idea why he would lease it to me, but he did. And now back then things have changed because now we've negotiated a lot of leases. But it was just, take the spot. I guess to answer your question, it was because he had no money put in it. It was just take the spot as is. There was no TI. There was no. It was a very short. It was like a 2-year lease, and it was just, all right. The space is yours. I'm not putting a dollar into it. Man, that's probably why he went ahead and leased it to me.
How long were you at that space?
So we were only there for 2 years. So like I said, we signed a 2-year lease, and then we made the jump from 1,000 feet to 3,000 square feet.
Nice. And then how did we get to the home base, right? I mean, this place is pretty impressive. Let me see if I can share. Yeah, I mean, you've got this awesome like retail spot. Is it in a strip mall? Like, is there other big business? Are there other anchor businesses here?
We are the anchor business.
Oh, you're the anchor business.
We are at a massive intersection. Fun quick story on that. I remember when I was looking for the first location, and again back in 2011, and this place is actually right down the street from it.
Mm.
And at the time, it was a bike store. And I remember, again, that's probably not even a quarter of a mile down the road, and it's at this just insanely amazing intersection. And I remember looking at that space and just thinking, oh my gosh, that place would just be outstanding. And I also remember looking it up online and saying, like, I could never afford this. Like, it was not even there was zero chance it was in the cards. Just again, an amazing, beautiful location right there on the corner at a very busy intersection. And I just, like I said, I thought to myself, like, wow, I would never be able to afford this, but this space would be like my dream location. Like I said, we ended up moving into 1,000 square feet. Then we went to 3,000 in 2013. And then in the early part of 2019, it turns out we moved into the location that 7 years earlier, I was like, I would give anything to be here, but there's no chance it will never happen.
So how many good months in 2019 did you get before 2020?
We moved in February, so we had relatively a good year. Now I would say 2018 was actually the challenge because you're so distracted with construction and build out, and 2018 was not a lot of sleep. It was a very exhausting year. We still had a good year, but that moving, expanding, adding another location. I mean, you're talking massive distractions, and so we weathered the storm. But we moved in February of 2019. We had a pretty good year, but that was it was 1 year of fun before the world went south.
Right. So with the big space, how is it divided? How is the space used? How many members do you have fitting in there? How many sessions do you have going on at once? You have the front desk there. I saw you've got some ergs and ski ergs kind of scattered about. Then you have the turf. So how does the space work?
Yeah, so to give people a visual, the space almost it makes like a J, kind of a U, little almost like a U or a J shape. And so typically we run two groups of six, and the pictures we've made some updates and we've added some equipment and we've moved some things around over time. We kind of found like a little bit of a better system, and so we'll typically run two groups of six during our very busiest hours, about 10 to 12 hours a week. We'll add in a third group of six. And so it gets a little snug when we've got three groups of six going. But at the same time, the energy in the room is amazing. Seeing all the clients interacting with one another, it's great to be. I love being in there when it's full, just because the energy in the room is so special in the community and seeing the clients interact with one another. But we'll run up to three groups of six.
I know you had that low barrier offer for many years. How has your packaging and pricing evolved over time, and where are we at now?
Yep. So we did our that 30-day. It was kind of like the fullback dive, just or the Packer sweep. We did 30 days for $89, and then we transitioned into we had I believe at the time it was like a one time, two times, and three time per week membership, and we did that for a long, long time. About I think 2 years ago, maybe I think it was about 2 years ago we actually switched to to offering weekly billing. Now, all of our older clients, we just kept them grandfathered in. We didn't change anything. It just it's like, don't touch it. It's fine. Just leave it as is. But we did start offering weekly billing for new clients moving forward, and that's what we've done the last couple of years.
But it's still the package is like based on weekly attendance, I'm assuming.
We offer a 2 time a week, 3 time per week, and unlimited option now. And I
Unlimited.
think yes. And I believe I don't handle any of the sales now, but I think our packaging I think it's $89 for 2 times a week. Or it's either 79, 99, 119 or 89. I think it's 89, 99, 129.
Okay, got it. So for unlimited, so you have set times then for these 6-person
Yes, everything
semi-privates,
is scheduled in advance. Yep.
but they're like standing times. They're like essentially classes, but they're not. You wouldn't call them
Most people
classes,
are,
but
yeah, most people are, yeah, we don't use the C word, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
most people are set up on recurring appointments. They don't have to, but yeah, I would say 80 to 90% of our clients are set up on recurring appointments. They just come the same time, week in, week out, and, you know, nothing changes. But we allow people to schedule, to not be on a set schedule and kind of change change week to week, and some do, but again, that's not the majority of our audience.
But your coach is like, we have the 7 a.m. spot, we have the 8 a.m. spot, we
Correct.
have
Yep.
yeah. Okay,
Yep. We start
gotcha.
appointments at 5 a.m. We go to 7 p.m. Now we've got some breaks throughout the day. We don't take appointments at like noon. We don't take appointments at 3 p.m. But so our schedule's a little. We're not offering appointments every hour, but we're offering about 12 sessions a day, or 12 different time slots.
Yeah, totally. Hey, gym owners, are you looking for a way to generate more leads, close more sales, and increase client retention? Introducing Kilo. We are a software company that gives gym owners the tools they need to increase revenue and run a successful gym. With Kilo, you get a beautifully designed website to capture more leads, an integrated marketing automation platform to increase sales, and our gym management software so you can add new client memberships, process payments, and organize your class schedule. If you're ready to upgrade your gym management software, book a call at usekilo.com. I want to talk about the expansion after this in the multi-location. But before we do, I guess tell me a little bit about post 2020. What did you guys do? How did you rebuild after that, I should say?
Yeah, 2020 it wasn't a fun year. I think we were shut down for right at 3 months here in St. Louis. So it was somewhere 11 or 12 weeks. And so, it was rough. That being said, talking to a lot of people in the industry, we were very blessed. We were very fortunate. A couple things happened. One, we've built up such an amazing community over the years that when we got shut down, 66% of our clients told us, keep billing me. which from everyone I've talked to is insane.
Yeah.
So we had two-thirds, two out of every three clients said, John, just keep billing me.
Hmm.
Now we were working, our team was amazing. The coaches, they worked their butts off to just continue to provide value. We did live workouts we did like live, like boot camp type workouts a couple times a day. We offered the semi-private training over Zoom, like 6 to 1 all day. We sent out, I was doing, I think I did for 90 days straight, like daily live videos, just in our Facebook group, just trying to, some of it was just more motivational, some of it was more helping people with their nutrition. It was all kinds of stuff. So we put forward different challenges. Like we did a home body challenge during that time. I mean, so again, our team, they worked their butts off. They were amazing, and they really just did. We did everything we possibly could to continue to try to help people from afar.
That's awesome. And yeah, I guess in the grand scheme of things, 3 months and then everyone can start coming back. Not too bad. That's awesome. And I guess did any of this content stuff, I'm sure you didn't continue all of it, but did any of it kind of carry over into what you guys are doing now in terms of content rhythms, publishing, things you put out?
Some a little bit. Some of it did. Some of it, we're always tweaking and testing and doing new and different things. One of the things that really stood out to me that I picked up on during COVID was I started recording just a lot of like selfie videos, and it was usually like live one take selfie videos. And what was amazing was because the content was decent, like people really enjoyed them, and that really switched. And now it's like common sense, but at the time prior to that, I thought everything needed to be clean and polished and edited, and and it just taught me that it's like, man, if the messaging's good, if you're talking to the right audience, like it doesn't, not everything needs to be like super high production value. It's like, is the content good? Well, that's what matters most. And so that's one of the things that still to this day, and we do a lot of we have a lot of nice polished content. We do a lot of things like that. However, we do a lot of things that are unpolished as well, and it just, and just we do a lot of again, it's like you just show your human side, have fun with it, don't take yourself too serious, keep things light and playful, and it will help connect people to you.
Yeah, I think there's a balance. You want to put stuff out, and I think just getting used to putting the reps in, putting stuff out, don't worry about if it's being too polished, isn't really important. But then, yeah, like looking at your feed, I like the tutorials. I like the stuff that's looking like, hey, here's a cool tip. You're mic'd up, and I think that also helps with the brand, especially if you're selling something that's a little bit higher ticket and more expensive. So I think, you have to have that balance. So this location, now that we're back up and running, how large is the staff at Blue Ocean?
Now we typically have a team of five, and so we have a fitness director that kind of handles all the sales and all the sales and operations, and then we typically have four coaches. And the fitness director will coach as needed from time to time. She doesn't do a lot of coaching, but again, if someone's out of town or sick, she'll jump in. She's a coach as well. That's her background. So it's not anything out of the ordinary for her to coach.
And how many clients do we have over here?
We see about like 250 to 260 people on a weekly basis.
Wow. Okay. Wow. All right. When did we decide this gym's good? We're good to go. Let's try another one.
Yeah, that was such a tough decision. It's always, what's the right decision to do. I had dabbled with a few other things. I am big into content. I do a lot of like email content creation. So I had looked at teaching email content to other fitness professionals. I actually created a like video emotionally driven video masterclass that I taught to gym owners. So from a video content, email content, I dabbled with some stuff. I actually wrote for about a year and a half. I wrote a lot of content for Alloy Personal Training before they were franchising, when it was just their single location. And I did a lot for them and some other people. And I did a couple different things, but the gym's always like, that's always been where my heart is. I love helping people with their fitness, and maybe if one of those other things just exploded and took off, we'd be having a completely different conversation. But none of it did, and so it was around I think the first of 2022 was when I felt like 2020, we were closed, and then even like in the fall of 2020, it's like, oh, COVID's back, and then it's gone, and then it's back, and so even like 2021, like COVID was still there, and there was just all this like up and down stuff. And so the beginning of 2022, I finally felt like, okay, I think this is like over. We're past this. It's no longer this like roller coaster ride. And so that was when I decided, it was like, all right, it's time. Like, what's next? And for me, it was there's two things that really stood out to me that drove that decision. And one was COVID, and it was in my mind, it was we have this thing that if people were healthier, it wouldn't have been near as big of a deal as it was. Doesn't mean, I'm not saying it wouldn't have been there at all, but it's like, man, it's like we let something like shut our entire world down, and a lot of that was due to our poor health. And that really drove me to say, like, we got to do more. We've got one location, but we've got to do more. And at the same time, my father's health has been really bad for about the last 8 to 10 years. And that was my other, seeing what's happened. He's one of my biggest motivators to keep building, is seeing his health. And so it was kind of those two things. He had several strokes, and then at the same time with COVID, it was just those two things combined just told me, it's like, I got to do more. That's it. It's like, we got to help more people, got to do more. And like that, and it just like, it pulled at me. And I have actually known Rick Mayo, the CEO of Alloy. We've been friends for about a decade, and we vacation together. He actually officiated my wedding. Like, we're
wow.
Someone that I have a ton of trust in, and believe in what he's building. And so all those factors combined contributed to, when it was time to make that decision, it was, okay, let's expand and do this. And I didn't want to expand on my own. Building a business is tough. That, like, it's not fun. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of lonely work. And I just decided, I don't want to do this on my own. And that was a lot that went into the decision to go the franchise route with Alloy.
Interesting. Makes sense. You've known Rick a long time. You're thinking about expanding. And you're like, well, I have help here now. Let's just do it this way. Let's buy some speed. It makes sense. So how you've expanded twice at your own location. You also now have resources from Alloy. So how do you evaluate a space? What are the things you look for when you're running the calculation of, like, all right, this is where we're going to go next?
First and foremost, it's just math is a big piece of it. What's the rent based on what we can charge? We're trying to keep our rent under 15% of revenue. And so, it's part of it just working backwards. But there's definitely a lot more than that. So I would say parking is a huge factor. We've had a couple amazing locations that I really wanted to go into, and I'm just like, parking's not good. One of the things I think is unique about our business model is we have clients coming to see us 2 and 3 times a week. All right. If you're going to the doctor once or twice a year and you have to inconvenience yourself to park, like, you can live with that. People aren't going to do that 2 and 3 times a week. Not, we're dealing with a more affluent, a little bit older demographic. Again, parking's a big deal. They need something that's convenient. And fortunately, all of our locations have amazing parking. And that, to me, that's something that's definitely a deal breaker, is what's the parking situation? Do we have parking? If people have to park on the street, and in some areas, some cities, I know it's different, but like in St. Louis, the idea of like parking on the street, like that just doesn't fly here. Again, totally different in like Chicago or New York, but here, like people just don't want to do that, and so they're not going to. So parking's huge, visibility is huge. Are people going to drive by and see it? Those are, the rent's a huge factor, and then lease negotiations. I've unfortunately learned a lot more about negotiating leases than I ever care to, because it's kind of, it's not a very exciting part
Yes.
of the business, but it's a very necessary part. We've also had a lot of locations that we walked away from just because the lease terms, we couldn't agree on them. For whether it was we had another great deal that we walked away from because they wouldn't put a cap on the HVAC repairs, and it's like, well, I'm not going to replace a $15,000 HVAC unit. And so, I've got my kind of checklist of my non-negotiables, and
Yeah, I
and
mean, share some other ones because
that's
I think that is especially if you're starting out anew, if you're opening your first gym, like it's as you said with your gym, you're like, I don't even know how I got that lease.
right.
It's something that people don't put enough thought into. So, what are some other things from that checklist that you have now that maybe you wish you had for your younger self?
The HVAC repairs is a huge one. That saved us, I believe, three different times at three different locations where HVAC unit broke. And again, it's like 15 grand to replace. And thankfully, we always negotiate. We try to negotiate $1,000 a year cap on HVAC repairs. That's kind of what I aim for. Usually, I'll during our letter of intent or our LOI that we'll submit, we go in asking for $500. They'll counter, but again, I'm trying to end up on like, all right, can I cap the HVAC repairs at around like $1,000 a year? I can say that in every one of our leases, we've been able to do that successfully. I also try to negotiate. One thing that you can't really negotiate is I'll try to cap the triple net increases annually. Landlords won't hardly budge on that. We've had success capping the common area maintenance fees to where they can only go up X% per year, but we've never had success negotiating like the taxes, which I understand that's mostly out of their control. And then the rent increases and months of free rent are also some pretty big things that we'll negotiate. I for every year of the lease, I try to ask for another month. So if you want a 5-year lease, all right, I want 5 months free rent. That's another piece that we'll negotiate. And then also the construction period. I know we're going to talk about this shortly, but construction is about as unpredictable as you can get. And I wouldn't sign a lease where the landlord says, okay, the clock starts ticking, 30 days from now. It's like, no, the construction and permitting, it always takes way longer than you think it's going to take. So those are some of the bigger things that we definitely try to negotiate. One of the other things, last thing I'll mention is the personal guarantee. We want to try to get it to burn off. Some of them I've been successful, others I haven't, and that for me isn't a deal breaker because I want to bet on myself, but that is something I do try to get.
What does that mean to burn off?
Like for instance, a personal guarantee after you've paid X amount of rent back. So
Then
the
we're
personal
done with it.
guarantee
Yeah.
would end after like 2 years, or it would slowly go away after 2 years.
Yeah, I didn't know you could do that. That's great. That's cool.
Now you do.
Now I do. So let's talk about those launches, right? So I imagine this is a different experience than your first time around, even your second with the second expansion. You're putting up more money up front. I'm assuming you got franchise fees. You're also constructing a space to a certain standard. So how did it go with location 1 and 2 and 3? And what did you learn?
Yeah, this is we could spend all day talking about this because every single location has been different. Every single location, things have went right. Every single location, things have went wrong, and every single time they've been different. So it's as we're preparing for our next location, it's even like, all right, well, what's it going to be this time? Like you don't know. With our first location, we had a great pre-sale as far as marketing goes, and so our marketing pre-sale went really well, but we got hung up with the fire marshal. And so the short version is the architect we had used wasn't licensed properly in the state of Missouri. Well, there's no way for us to know that. And it was a weird technicality in like their legal LLC name versus DBA name. Uh, it again, their work was just fine, but the fire marshal decided to be a stickler about it and was just like, nope, this isn't, they're not like, they can't work in Missouri. So that actually, we were right in the middle of again, a great pre-sale. We're getting people signed up every week and things are looking good. And again, being my first Alloy location, I'm like, man, this is easy. I'm going to knock out like 20 of these things in no time. And then I got the news about getting denied for permits, and that ended up setting us back 2 months, where we were literally at a 2 month standstill. The problem was we had already started marketing, we had already turned on our ads, we were already signing up clients. And so we were signing up clients with this expectation that like, hey, we're going to open, March 1st or whatever the date was. I don't remember off the top of my head. Hey, we're going to open by March 1st. That was kind of what we were telling people. And then all of a sudden, like we ended up not opening till May. So we had a lot of these people that we signed up early on that ended up dropping off because they're just
Right.
like, no, I'm not waiting.
Yeah.
And so again, we had a great pre-sale. We signed up a lot of people. Unfortunately, we lost, I think it was probably around like 20 to 25 people, which in a small group training gym, like 20 to 25 people is massive. That's huge. So we lost like 20 to 25 people in our pre-sale because they were like, sorry, I'm not waiting, 2 more months. They got tired of us just kind of kicking the can down the road, telling them, so we'll let you know when we know more. And they just eventually moved on or, went elsewhere or decided not to do it.
Well, it's still standing. So how did you bounce back from that? Just kept pushing, just kept pouring more
Just
gas in
kept
it.
just kept pushing. We decided, we kept marketing all through those 2 months. So it was expensive, but it was, we decided it was the right decision to do. Thankfully, we did do a really good job of nurturing our clients during that time, which I do believe contributed to the clients just not falling off a cliff and us losing everyone. So we did a great job of nurturing people. We did some things online as far as like educational workshops. We did a lot of like uh, email education, email newsletters, which again kind of goes to my background. That really was helpful. We did a lot of a lot of workouts in a park. So it's a chance to get some like FaceTime. We're humans. We need that human interaction. And so while we were waiting, we would go meet in a park. We offered, I don't know, it was only like 6 hours a week, but we would offer workouts in a park where people could come work out and a chance to kind of get to know one another. And what's cool is we still have several of those clients, today that I remember meeting them for the first time in that park. And that was, that was really cool. So that was, we did some things right as well that helped us to kind of bounce back out of that and maybe to offset things from being even worse or there being even more damage.
We're going to talk about the Alloy 2 and 3, but let's talk about a little bit the marketing side. You mentioned a couple times now the email marketing. What's your approach to content and email marketing? How did you kind of get hooked into that, and how much of your time do you spend crafting that stuff, or do you now hand that off to someone else?
Yeah, so it was. I always got C's and D's in English in school. I'm not a writer. I hated it in school. I hated reading in school, and I'm not honestly. I don't know like how that changed, but I started putting out content again just to help people and got a little bit better, and then somewhere along the lines, probably now it's been like 10 years ago, I just kind of got hooked on it, and I was like, man, people really, I'd write an email newsletter and send it out. People would be like, man, that really helped me out today. And I think hearing the feedback from the clients like that, I really appreciated your message today. I think that just like drove me and motivated me to to try to learn to be a better writer and to be a better communicator. And I just, again, I've taken a lot of courses, read a lot of books, and just really tried to be a better storyteller over the years, and slowly got better and better and better. And now, I say I do a pretty good job of being able to craft a compelling message that it keeps people motivated and encouraged, and really just tell a lot of personal stories to just so that I can resonate with people and connect with them, and just hopefully just try to, I want people to read a message and just be like, man, he's right. Like, I do need to do this. I do need to take that first step, or I do need to stick with it, because, everyone has those struggles where it's like they want to give up. And, I want this to be like one little thing that I can do to maybe help keep them from giving up and quitting.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you could give some advice to people, because something I have found, especially when I drop into gyms, or if I sign up for like a week pass or a month pass, I'll get subscribed to their newsletters, I'll get the emails. And I find a lot of gyms are putting out newsletters just to kind of check the box off to say, yes, I know I'm supposed to do this, so I'm doing it, or my business mentor said I have to do this, so I'm doing it. But a lot of the times they're just kind of uninspired, or maybe it's like a couple things about the gym, or maybe a nutrition tip, but it's kind of like the same stuff. So what advice do you have to kind of, I guess, what should people be thinking about if they're trying to do this? Is it worth it if they're just checking off the box? How would you advise someone on maybe utilizing the email newsletter as best they can?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I agree with you. I see a lot of other gyms, email communication, and most of it is very painful.
Yeah,
It's just, it's so vanilla. Whether it's, you could call it checking a box. You could say that it's super vanilla. You could say that, they put minimal effort into it, or they found a template online, or in today's world, it's like, oh, they just went on Chat GPT, and it just, and it's like whatever that spits out, that's what they share. And um, I guess you could say, like, well, that's better than nothing, but it's definitely not going to move the needle forward like what a well-crafted message or story could. And I don't do a lot of selling in my emails. It's not much at all. It's just, I just want to try to, I call it like infotainment. I want it to be informational. I want it to be helpful, but it needs to be entertaining. And that's where I think a big, I think there's two big issues with email marketing. One is the gyms that all they do is say, like, buy my crap, buy my crap, buy my crap. And it's just like sales pitch after sales pitch after sales pitch. I think that's one problem, where it's just constantly sales pitches, where it's like, no, you need to balance out. You need to provide more value. You need to nurture these people. You need to get to know them. You need to help them. So I think that's one problem. And then the other problem is just the vanilla generic messaging that's, I've seen 100 emails that say, drink more water, eat more protein.
exactly,
And
exactly,
it's just, and
exactly.
it's like literally that. It's like, oh, great, thanks, that was helpful. Like, it's just, it's so bland. And it's like, you need to show, I think you need to be your authentic self. And so I'm a really sarcastic guy, so my messages are very sarcastic. So I tell people I'm like, look, if you're not sarcastic, like, don't do that, because then eventually when you do meet this person, they're going to be like, that's not you. So, it's like, you be your authentic self, but show your personality, have some fun. I think over the years, I've learned to take myself, and this is probably due to, as your confidence. It's probably, initially looking back, it was due to a lack of confidence. Like, I tried to be so serious and professional, and it's like, no, lighten up, have fun, like, act like a human. Quit, just act like a normal human being, and tell a story, and be a real person. And that's what people want, to connect with other humans. And I think, especially in today's world, with technology and with the internet, there's never been a better, more powerful time, where if you can just interact as a human, just be a normal person, like, I think you can stand out more now than ever before.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. So let's talk about the first Alloway. We're open. We got over the contractor woes, the fire marshal. We're rocking and rolling. 2 and 3. Why?
Yeah. Well, I will say that I signed a franchise agreement for 4 locations.
Oh, I
That was
gotcha. Okay, so you were
I
you were
went
like,
into
you're committed
I
to
went in,
4.
I went all in. It was, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. I'm
Right.
not I'm all in. Now I would, for anyone listening that's like, okay, so he's saying go all in, I would like first pump the brakes and say like I felt very confident about what I was getting into. And so if you don't know what you're getting into, maybe you don't have experience, again, Blue Ocean Fitness, our first gym, is so similar to Alloy. Again, Rick was one of my early mentors. Like it just, I was so familiar with the brand that I went all in again because I was like, I already know what I'm getting into. I've been doing this the last, at the time, I think it was 12 years. It's like I feel very confident about how this is going to play out, and I was definitely wrong about some things and right about some things, but as far as the business itself, I knew the business model, I knew the industry, and so I went all in. So I signed an agreement for 4, and as soon as we opened in May of 2023, and it took me a while, it took a long time to find that first location, and after that I was like, you know what, I'm going to start looking now because like it's going to take me forever. Well, lo and behold, we opened in May in 2023. So I start putting other offers out there because again I'm like, they're all going to fall through, like nothing's going to happen. I signed 2 leases in June of 23.
Oh,
So it
wow.
did not, yeah. So a
Wow.
month after number one opened, we signed 2 leases. Again, that was not my plan, but it just, I was, thinking, I'm like, it's going to take forever. These deals are going to fall through. And some did, but it just worked out that, I was very cautiously optimistic every step of the process. I'm like, okay, they agreed to this term. Like, and then we counter and go back uh, I'd be thinking, I'm like, no, this is going to be a deal breaker. And then it's like, oh, they did meet me halfway, and it worked out. And so we signed in June of 23, a month after opening. We signed the leases for locations 3 and 4, which was again not what I expected to happen, but sometimes that's just the way it works.
To me, the first thing that's when I'm thinking about, oh, I'm signing this many leases and I'm opening these businesses at the same time, is staffing, is talent. How do you find talent? What's your approach to staffing? How do you educate and continue to educate your staff to make sure everyone's on the same page, maintaining a level of quality and standard?
Yeah, that's been probably one of the biggest things that I've had to learn, and that has evolved over time. And so, to as far as first finding staffing, I've my role has completely shifted. When I had the one gym, and even the second gym, you can kind of split your time 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
I think, in my opinion, and now granted, I never really had 3 locations because we went straight to 4.
Right.
But
Right.
I believe it's at that location 3 and 4 that things start to break. Again, with 2 locations, you can split your time 2 ways. I could be here on Monday, here on Tuesday. You can do that without being too terribly overworked. It's when you add in more, you can't go put out the fires. And so that was when my role really changed, was with locations 3 and 4, because I can no longer do the work. I have to work through others. And so, and to your question, that begins with finding talent. And so I look at that, I look at staffing and finding talent is very similar to marketing for clients. We you need to have multiple poles in the water. You don't want to only do Facebook ads, just like you don't want to only look on Indeed or LinkedIn. So we've got multiple platforms we're working. I'm asking clients for referrals. Do you know any trainers? I'm asking trainers. We pay our trainers a referral fee. Hey, if you find anyone that wants to join, if they stick around 6 months, I'm going to pay you $2,000. We advertise on Indeed. Indeed has some other tools where you can like actively pursue people. I do that as well. We use LinkedIn. We've used Facebook. We've used the local universities here, reaching out to professors through there. I've given talks at the local universities. We've used a couple other companies online. I'm drawing a blank on the names, but I've hired a recruiter before. I've used a couple other online platforms. So, it's like, all right, I would say if you're going to staff up to someone that's going to expand, it's don't put all your eggs in one basket. And so you need to have multiple poles in the water. And then to continue on that marketing theme, I also think your messaging is important. If you go on Indeed right now and look at like personal training jobs, most job descriptions look the exact same. And so it's, just like you're marketing for your gym, like you need to stand out, you need to be unique. And so, kind of going back to the sarcasm, it's like we like to keep things light and fun. I mean, my team works hard, they're amazing, but I say we don't want to take ourselves too serious. And so, in our job ad, and it's interesting, I don't know what gave me this idea, if I just made it up one day, but years ago, I added to our job listing 10 reasons not to apply. And in those reasons, I would say, like, if you walk around with a gallon jug of water, don't apply. If you can name more than 5 Mr. Olympias, don't apply. If you like to stare at yourself, if you've got a name for your arms, don't apply. And then, like, reason number 10 is like, if you hate puppies, don't apply. But it's just like, that has been the number one thing that I always, in an interview, I ask, like, why did you apply here? And that's been the number one answer. People would say, I really liked your 10 reasons not to apply. And it showed that human element and that sense of humor.
That's good branding. It's good marketing. It's good stuff.
It's like, that's who, it goes back to, like I said, like, don't take yourself too serious. We want the clients want to have fun, and we need to be able to provide a fun environment. And if you read that list of 10 things and you're just like, oh, I don't get it, then it's like, all right, you're not going to be able to entertain the clients, so it helps us attract the right people.
Yeah, you need to cut through the noise, and having something like that, even as simple as that, just 10 reasons not to apply, that's enough to differentiate your post from everything else that they're scrolling through. So, and that there's like a human involved, right?
Yes.
There's a human involved who's actually looking for someone to join their team, versus some kind of faceless entity. So I think all that's really great. So your role has changed, right? You can't put out all the fires. You're delegating, you're working through others. How do you monitor success across the different locations? What metrics do you track? What KPIs are you looking at? And do you have to evaluate your staff and the performance of the businesses differently because you have the franchises that are kind of, I know they're similar in the way they operate with Blue Ocean, but they are different kind of styles, right? And so do you have different metrics for these different locations for your staff, or do you blend things together? How does it work?
Things are very, very similar. They're near there are some slight variations, but they are nearly identical. The numbers are different, but the framework and the structure is the same. The cadence is the same. Our meeting cadence is the same. That doesn't change. So we have weekly scorecards, monthly dashboards, and then quarterly rocks. Are you familiar with EOS?
Yes,
that's kind of that I've been kind of obsessed with them about the last 5 or 6 years, and it's been extremely helpful. We've had to tweak the system slightly, but for the most part, we use it as designed. And so we have our weekly scorecards, and it's how many phone calls are we making to leads? How many what are the leading indicators? What are the things that we need to do in order to get the outcomes we want? How many clients do we have? How many new clients did we add? How many new client, we call it a starting point session. How many appointments did we have to meet with potential new clients? Again, how many phone calls are we making to leads? How many we do accountability sessions where we'll meet with clients every month just to like check in, how's it going, how your workouts, we just want some feedback on. So those are a lot of the things that we're measuring on a weekly basis. We're measuring the output. What are the leading indicators that are going to help us get to the goals? And so all of those weekly scorecard numbers are basically, those are the driving forces that we believe will help us achieve our quarterly rocks. Just like in EOS, we've got our 3 to 5 quarterly rocks. Everyone, there is an owner that's responsible. There is someone that's responsible for them. There's a clear target. And then the monthly dashboard is where we kind of bridge the gap to measure like how are we doing? Are we on track or are we off track? So we've got our weekly scorecards, which is all about measuring output in order to achieve our quarterly goals. And the monthly dashboard kind of sits in between the two and helps to make sure like, all right, are we on track? And every end of February, into January, into February, like, are we on track to hit our quarterly rocks by the end of March? And so and it's nice because all that fits on one single. We use Google Sheets. We don't do anything fancy. And the managers are all responsible, or the fitness directors is what we call them. Each studio has a fitness director. They're responsible for updating those every week. And then I look at them every single Monday. And it's just, are we on the right track? Are we on the wrong track? Is our output where it should be? And if not, then I'll just ask like, hey, what's going on here? I've noticed we've been off track on this thing 3 weeks in a row. Like, well, what are we doing to fix that? Because we know that this is the thing that will help us get to the goal. So it's very conversational with my leadership team, and we talk. We meet every week, and it's just like, hey, what's going on here? Like, are we good? We still on track, or like, do you guys need help? Is it like a time management issue that we need help figuring out how to optimize your time? Is it I don't know how to do this thing, or something that is it like you need help there? Is it a capacity issue where you're spread too thin and we need to we need to get you more help? Like what is it? And then from there it's just helping the team to problem solve. But the biggest difference in that process versus one or two locations is when we're problem solving, the solution, and this bothers. This is something that I still struggle with as someone that likes to be hands-on. Is the solution can't be, oh well, John will go do it, because that just at 4 locations, like, that just doesn't work. You can't do that. And so I'll help problem solve. Again, what do we need to? It's all about working through others and helping them figure out how do we solve these problems together. And then is it the manager? Is it one of the other coaches? Like, how do we get the thing done that we need to get done?
Yeah. And it's only you're going to have to, you can't do it any other way as you expand to more and more locations, right? I mean, as you scale, you can't, John can't do it all. That's the lesson. And so I guess to wrap things up, you're about to expand even more alloys are on the way. For gym owners who are thinking about making that jump from 1 to 2, or maybe they have 2 and now they really want to try and scale and get to 10, what advice would you have for them? What would you say to that person if they came up and asked you?
One, I would say go slow. And what I mean by that is I've seen a lot of folks and I've got a lot of friends in the industry that I talk to, and I've seen people that are, they're like, all right, they're talking about like a second location, and then something bad happens at the first location and they're like back to training 40 hours a week. And it's like, man, once you sign that lease, like, there's no turning back. And so I say go slow, just to say you better make sure your systems are in order. Get your house in order. You have to build from a solid foundation. I've got an amazing team at our first gym, and only because of that have we been able to do these other things. You've got to have the systems in place. You've got to have the structure in place. You've got to have the team in place, and you've got to. I think one of the other big things that I would challenge owners on is, how much are you involved? And what I mean by that is, I think a lot of owners are a lot more involved than they think they are.
Yeah.
I'll hear people that will say like, oh yeah, the business runs without me. And I'm like, but then I talk to them and they're there every day. And so it's like, well, clearly it's not. And to that, it's understanding that, that you being there to give that client a high five, to greet people when they walk in the door, to give your team the fist bump and the pat on the back, and to help clean up the studio. All those little things add up a ton. And so you may be doing a lot more than you realize, which would mean like if you pull yourself out in order to go open that second location, things may fall apart if you're not careful. And so I would just really stress to people like, take if you it's not a bad idea to do anyway. If you're really on the fence, like I think I'm ready, my advice would be cool. Don't go in your gym for 30 days.
Right.
That's the to me that's the ultimate test. Just
Yeah.
don't go in your gym for 30 days. See what happens. If you walk in, it's like so can you not wait 30 days before you sign a personal guarantee and another lease? Like, just be sure. Make sure your house is in order and don't go in the gym for 30 days and see what happens. If you're like, oh well, I couldn't do that. It's like, okay, well then you there's a good chance you're not ready. And so, monitor your time, monitor how much you're actually doing. And again, it might be a lot more than what you think.
That's a great button, as we call it in the biz. I love it. John, this has been enlightening. Great to chat with you. And if people want to learn more and follow you along the journey, see how many alloys you're going to be able to open up and conquer the world, your little empire, where can they find you?
Yeah, usually on Instagram, Facebook, all the standard places. But Coach John Farkas at Instagram is where I update a lot of just kind of like what's happening in the gyms and post kind of our current events.
All right, gym owners, that's it. And if you found some good little nuggets here from the interview, make sure you give some like and subscribe. Be sure to follow us as well if you're interested in getting some help with your marketing, with your website, with your sales, with your software. Go to usekilo.com, check that out. And yeah, that's all we have for this week. I hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next time. We love you, Gym World. Goodbye.